discussing all matters careers and just these passionate issues about skills mismatch and looking at how we can increase graduate employability in the industry. Of course, this is a deliberation that is taking place right here at the University of Nairobi, thanks to the Chancellors' initiative, and of course has been organized with the academia, with the government officials, and also with the private sector involved. With me, I have a diversity of guests and CEOs who are going to lead these discussions, and also, of course, not forgetting of the academic world. Just to give you an overview, there has been statistics released about, the concerns amongst employers that, we're experiencing half-baked graduates and are really getting the kind of caliber of graduates we need. And on the other side of the academia, they're saying, we're calling for more partnerships and calling for more, engagement with industry to understand what exactly do they require. So those are some of the answers and questions that we'll actually be posing to them and hoping that we can actually hit it as we go ahead. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this production and thank you so much for being here. At this point, I'm going to just throw it directly to the Chancellor herself, and Mike will be passed on to you, Madam. Madam Vijora Tansi, this is an initiative that has been organized together with a committee that has worked around you. So just give us an overview. What led to this, and what do you hope to achieve?
What led to this? Exactly what you said, half-baked students. That's what led to this. We hope to have a very, very long and strong partnership, collaboration you can call it, with industry, government, and the university. And this is for our students and graduates, so that we can nurture them and they can, get on to jobs which are more fulfilling. We guide them there. And this can only happen when industry talks to us and we know what they need. If this happens, we're all the way up. And I believe it will happen because I can see all the top-notch people here today.
Thank you, Madam Ratansi. Dr. Desai, from a look at it on the government side, you sit and chair the board of Vision 2030, particularly the social pillar. And the issue about skills of the future is brought up more than enough. Are we really training our graduates to actually lead us to achieving our Vision 2030?
The training competence exists within both universities and the entire tertiary educational system. Where the challenge directly lies in the dynamic requirements of productivity for industry, their dynamic requirements as far as their needs in terms of their capacities and standards and capacities towards enhancing productivity, their needs in terms of innovation, promoting innovation, finding ways in which they can promote value from seed to shop. They can promote 40 different products. They can lift the entire manufacturing agenda or service sector based on different portfolios of products. Their requirements of efficiency. And this is directly related to the requirements of how we create frameworks, structures, and mechanisms to inform this dynamic requirement into the training capacity that exists. And I think that what needs to be done, of course, is roundtables like this have to be created, but most importantly, there has to be a commitment to address aspects and requirements of skills, education, and research. The government has made a tremendous effort. If you look at all the three different acts, the Science, Technology, Innovation Act, the Universities Act, the TIVET Act, these presuppose a direct partnership and a joint responsibility towards education, skills, and research. What it requires is that industry informs us of occupational standards, curriculum, and then goes on to inform the requirements of research capacities. Government, to that effect, has provided 1.8 billion in this year's budget for research. So it's up to the industry to see how they're able to create these frameworks and structures. What exists within universities is the ability to promote organized research. This then leads to basic and applied research. What also exists within the framework recently is an integration of technical vocational training and university education through the Kenya Qualifications National Framework. This integration for the first time enables the private sector to have a diverse opportunity of seeing how they are able to address aspects of skills, education, and research through a very integrated system that enables them to address aspects of productivity, innovation, efficiency. The government's vision and current vision is led by Vision 2030 into the Big Four, which focuses on these 4 areas: the healthcare sector, the manufacturing sector, the food security, agricultural sector, and the housing sector. And the basis of this entire initiative is not only the focus, but the prioritization of these sectors. And these functions then are the responsibility of all of us: human capital development, entrepreneurship, and competitiveness within this frame. Thanks.
Thank you, Doc. Appreciate it. I'm going to come to you, of course, the Vice Chancellor later, and of course, just getting an overview from what the academic side is doing, and we'll come past the mic to you. But Madam Wainaina, listening to Kevin speak, the government here says, you know what, there's a need to actually, of skill set in the country. They've injected 1.8 billion. That's the amount that you're actually, focusing on research. You represent the HR, as well as the recruiters in the country. This issue about half-baked, how exactly are they?
Thank you. First of all, I do not even think they're half-baked. I don't even think that they are closer to being employable in a workplace. And this is informed by the fact that I've been involved in interviewing these candidates. I take them on board for internships as an institute myself. Our members of HR in the fraternity, they have raised these concerns. They come for an interview, they indeed do not have a clue of what it means to transition from college to the industry. One of the challenges that I have met as I was reflecting about this roundtable this morning, they do not even know how to communicate. Mr. Vice Chancellor, they need to learn how to be a good talker, how to be a good writer. These students, when they're coming out, they need to learn how to have a positive attitude at a workplace, meaning motivated. They do not even know how to self-manage. They're not even clean, basic hygiene. I'm telling you, they're not presentable when they come to the workplace to seek for these opportunities. They're not even willing to learn new things because they're coming out thinking, I'm a graduate of University of Nairobi. We are having a true, real challenge. They can't submit reports, and they're from University of Nairobi. I'm an alumni, and I question, where did you pass through? Because I was in that university. Speaking of the Vice Chancellor talking about partnerships, in my view, we need to start with forming a joint steering committee between the university and industry. I don't think the Vice Chancellor will have time to personally follow up on this initiative. I think a joint committee would be a better starting point so that you appoint individuals from your faculty that are multidisciplinary and understand how they can bridge the gap. I think in my view, that's where we need to start.
All right. One of VC, you've been adversely mentioned. Do you want to react to that?
The issue is experiential learning for our students. The responsibility is wide. At the University of Nairobi, we have also made observations similar to those that have been mentioned. And that is why we are here today. That is why we must stop and ask, what is it that we must do and do immediately? We have, in the recent past, emphasized experiential learning and mentorship for our students here and career fairs. And we're asking the industry to come and assist us together with the alumni as well. We also commit to work with other sectors, even as students join the university. That's where they learn English. That's why they learn basic attributes like the one that have been mentioned. But we are committed as a university to get a quick about turn and continue with the brand of the University of Nairobi.
Thank you very much, Professor Mbithi. I will now want to pass on to just the mic to Dr. Manu Chandaria. You know, you are an industrialist, and of course, the many companies that you operate under Safar Group. Just want to look at it. How was it in your time looking at, the transition? Now the HR manager is saying people actually don't even know how to write, and they've graduated 4 years on. These are people you've employed over time, and you know, you're always scouting out for good talent. From your side, on a very practical perspective, you know, what do you look for in a graduate?
First, let me congratulate the Nairobi University of taking the initiative of, you know, always universities are considered what people are sitting in the ivory towers. First time we are seeing a real effort to connect with the industry, and not only industries, but anybody who employs people and the university. And I think that it is a welcome sign. And all I would suggest is, instead of us, at least my experience in various places, as I have to go and ask them, how about doing this? Rather than they're coming back and saying, here is an opportunity. Can we help? Can you help us to build this or to make it happen? I think there is a clear understanding that without the employers, we cannot run our 70, 80 universities that we have got in this country. We need to earmark, call them, understand their issues, try to organize our courses accordingly, and I'm sure it can be done. And it's nice to see Nairobi University is taking the first step. And I wish them all well.
Thank you. Madam Jane Mwerere, you're my HR manager. I wouldn't want to lose my job, so I have to let you speak. But you have a very, very interesting approach into how this can be sorted out, which is, you know, as much as we give internships also to students, also have lecturers come on board and let them also retrain and relearn based on what are the current industrial needs. Talk to us about that.
Okay, thank you. You won't lose your job, eh?
Thank you.
Yeah, so for me, we usually have internship programs where we have students coming from the different universities so that they can have on-the-job training. But then I've asked myself, this doesn't seem to have worked, yeah, for a very long time. And the question is this, what about the academia? You know, we have a lecturer who is maybe lecturing in human resources. They've never worked, yeah? Personally, I did an MBA in Nairobi University, and I remember that I had a lecturer who was actually taking me for one of the units in HR. But as they talk, they are very theoretical because they've never worked in the industry. What about turning the table and saying, with the students still coming for internship, can we have academia being attached to the industry? It will not cost the industry money because they are still on the payroll of the universities. So that as they teach, then they do understand exactly what are they teaching, yeah? That is one of my approach. The other approach was like, as I did my first degree in teaching, and then I keep on wondering, has the curriculum changed since I left the university, in Kenyatta University, many years back? What were the challenges then? We didn't have issues like social media. So I am sure, I don't know whether the curricula has now changed to address what is a new social evil, so to speak. And so are we changing our curricula also to fit the changes the changes that are happening globally? So for me, I see that let's also combine strategies. Let's not over-rely on one strategy so that we can bridge the gap. I personally do interviews, and sometimes it's very frustrating when somebody says they come from Nairobi University or Kenyatta University or any other university, and they can hardly express themselves, just like what my colleague has said, yeah? So I think there are many other areas. And the last point that I have is this, yeah? As industry players, why don't you invite us to the industry? I would be very happy to be invited to come and have a session with your students doing HR so that it becomes part of your teaching methodology. So it's not a one-off during the career fair. It's like every quarter you have somebody from the industry, from whichever sector, coming to have a real classroom situation with your students so that we combine and use all these strategies so that we see how we are going to help our universities.
Thank you, Madam Jane. Appreciate it. So, Professor Aosa, are you willing to invite her to one of your business school classes and for her to give a practical guest lecture experience or perspective in your classrooms?
Thank you very much. As a matter of fact, it is very important that these things are being said from our colleagues out in industry. And indeed, going forward, it will be extremely important in enhancing experiential learning.
Could you just hold the mic a bit higher? Sorry. Yes, go ahead.
Yes, it's extremely important that this blend between industry practical input and academic input in training these youngsters basically comes in. I've personally gone through systems whereby we've had classes in my MBA whereby the professors and industry practitioners teamed up to deliver business programs. And I believe doing this, we can be able to bridge this kind of gap. But more importantly, is the question of working on the attitudes, mindsets of the learners so that the transition from university into industry is as smooth as it can be. What we have done in the past has been kind of sporadic, but moving forward might be very, very important if this is done in a more organized way so that our learners all have an opportunity to get this experience. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Ose. What is interesting to note that is, as much as we're talking about half-baked students, is that technology is not waiting for us. They're the skills of the future. There's actually what pretends and what will be. How are we creating a student who will be able to fit in Dr. Desai's Vision 2030 goal, okay? So, Sagia, I want you to talk to us about that because you're a techie and this is something that is close to your heart. You're CEO of SAP. I'm going to pass it on also to McKinsey later. But from your perspective, do you feel that we're actually training for the skills of the future in view of how technology is really moving?
Thank you, Laban. Chancellor, PS, Vice, Academia. We have this saying that says, in the tech place, by this ice hockey captain, that skate to where the park is going to be, not where it was. I strongly feel that, I'm an alumni of Nairobi University as well, but I strongly feel that I think the university is skating to where the park was, not even where it is today. And we see that in the work environment. When we do invite, and I share with you one, when we do invite, your candidates to come over for interviews, even for internship, we ask them to present about certain concepts. They always fail. Unfortunately, we do only pick from private universities. The advanced skills that are needed is no longer just about the technical part, but a lot about the soft part as well. Being able to present an idea, articulate it, how you journey through finding a solution to exactly asking for resources to solve that particular problem. That's what we expect in the real world now. Now, when it comes to technology, it's a whole different ballgame because the whole shift is happening so fast. Social media and the other things used to call us already yesterday. Now we are talking about blockchain and many other stuff. So right now, if you're not skating to where blockchain and Internet of Things and advanced robotics and machine learning and artificial intelligence is going to be, we already have a problem. Even on basics like journalism is being auto-written by artificial intelligence, and reports you'll see on many of the websites of international media is automatically done. Nobody is sitting around to do it themselves. It picks up from all kinds of whatever and then puts it together and asks for proofreading and presents it. So you need one person to literally do so much, even on journalism, where you would have needed 10 people to do. So a lot is changing in every single sphere. And I think we need to find a way where this is a joint steering, kind of a committee, including private sector into it, that we develop programs that are going to skate to where the ball is going to be, not where it is or currently where it was. Thank you.
Thank you, Gilbert. Pauline, why I'm throwing the mic to you is because you have another interesting approach, which is, I've done 4 years in college. And then I come to your interview table and you give me a whole examination which wants to compress what I've done for 4 years in just under a few minutes. Just talk to us about that and what do you hope to achieve with all these psychometric testings, with all the endless, I will call them, interviews you have your students go through?
Yeah, I think for us, the important thing is really some of this softer skills that we're looking at, analytical skills. Do they have problem-solving skills? Are they able to have critical thinking? And I think the exciting thing is that I've seen in the new curriculum, now we've included, problem-solving and critical thinking as part of the curriculum for the juniors. But there's an opportunity for the people that haven't, gone through this curriculum. And I think that's one of the things that we really try to test with our problem-solving skill set. And often what I find is that, people have the technical expertise, they've been taught in school, they have the theory, but the application is really a challenge. And so often, like for us, the stopgap measure has actually to put them through a 2-year program just to prepare them for the workforce. And this is a huge challenge.
That adds to 6 years. For the time, say for instance, if you have 4 years in campus and then 2 years program. And has it turned out well? Do you see there's the positive change in terms of the kind of graduates or employees you have after that 2 years?
Yeah, absolutely. For us, it's really been a good story because we've seen that, some of the students that come through, and we take them through the 2-year program where they learn all these skills for the workplace. And they've turned out to be really super performers in the organization. So I think it's working.
Thank you, Pauline. I'm going to ask to throw the mic to Mamadou Bite because I want to come to you. But in the meantime, Professor Bitangen Demo, I don't know, something maybe you can ponder about before I get the mic to you is the science of, you're leading a technical workforce in, artificial intelligence in government. I also want you to talk about the skill set angle onto it because you're looking towards advising government on how this technology will go. But are you also advising them on how to also create a pool of talent? Instead of us getting talent from abroad, we can actually get homegrown talent. That will come to you. But Mamadou, it's over to you. Just let me have a quick insight from your perspective. Agenda 2063, there's an opportunity. The university says they want partners. Can Rockefeller come in and maybe create a hub, an incubation hub, an opportunity to, train others?
Well, actually, I must say that we have been already partnering with the university to address this big challenge of youth unemployment. First of all, to really work with the industry, because we focus more on the supply side. But I think that some of the challenges that have been said here are real in terms of soft skills and what it takes to bridge that gap. And I believe that is too long because if an individual have to be trained at the university 4 years and then retrained by other institutions 2 years or less, it's actually too much. And I think that the curricula at the university need to be revised so that those requirements they are not training for the industry, which are mostly the soft skills, because industry are sometimes willing to spend and train more on the technical skills, needs to be actually embedded in those curricula. So this is something that we have been working on, and we've looked at the best curricula over the past 25 years that have been provided by many of these training providers on demand-driven training. And all of that have been articulated in a interactive, demand-driven training curriculum and framework that we can draw on. So this is not something that we can start from scratch, but we need to bring this back for more into the main curriculums for more efficient training so that graduates are really employable upon actually graduation. And our role as a philanthropy is really to put our philanthropic capital into bridging this gap and facilitating that connection between the industry and the trainers. And in sometimes also whereby industry may not take many interns. We are actually ready to sort of provide some type of stipend so that industry can allow those students being trained to actually be already in the working environment, so that while they are being trained, they can actually get a better understanding of what would be required from them once they graduate. Yes, definitely.
Thank you, Mawadou. So, Prof, you want to take on that AI? Are you training skills for the future?
Okay, I'm actually shocked that. But first thing I want to recommend is that if everybody after this can watch Simon Sinek on millennials, it would help us understand. The problem is that it is us. The millennials are thinking differently, and we want them to think the way we have been thinking. The world changed. Companies like Andela, it's getting young people from here to work globally because they take the patients, they are patient in what they want and actually get the same graduates you are complaining here, they are working globally because we have refused to, we are rigid. We are not changing to accommodate these universal kids because social media has actually, every country is complaining the same way we are complaining here. Even as professors have to change how to teach them to be more patient, that they didn't bring their paper here and there. Artificial intelligence is not going to eliminate jobs. It will require new training. Now, because we have refused to accommodate that, a lot of young people are doing it in clubs, especially around machine learning and whatnot. There's a lot more jobs that are in those spaces which we have refused those who are in position to accommodate so that you have these people working behind. So I see this gathering as a beginning of us beginning to learn in this new world order.
Thank you very much. And ladies and gentlemen, don't get lost. We started with the issue or conversation about the problem, creating the problem which is at hand, issues about half-baked students. We're talking about training of the skills of the future in view of the Vision 2030, in view of Agenda 2063 that requires Africa to actually have a fast-moving community. Let's now talk to us about kind of solutions. And I want to spend the rest of the few minutes just talking to us what can be done differently. And to begin with, I'm going to ask Madam Susan Kiama, you have been an accomplished HR professional. You now run your own outfit. What do you see as a solution to this? Half-baked students, talking about, skills of the future. What can be done?
Thank you very much, Laban, and good morning. I think it's good to look and learn from maybe some of the successes of the past. I had the opportunity to work in telecommunications as it was becoming a big sector in the economy in the early 2000s. And one of the things we realized is, as has been mentioned, the cost of training. So you get the graduates. It was a new field at the time. So the learning around mobile telecommunication was not in the curriculum. And one of the things that we chose then to do was to partner with institutions of higher learning. And as the institution, as the company, we created the curriculum because we knew the demand would grow. And sometimes as industry, you sit and say, so you're going to create a curriculum, you're going to invest, you may not absorb all the people, but sometimes when you're in industry, you must create also for the country, not just for your own organization, and see what is the benefit that you're giving individuals. So at that time, maybe yes, mindset was difficult for industry to go into academia and say, this is what we want and we want to create, whereas academia's place was, we know and we create curricula. But the other thing that was interesting is that we wanted a technical outcome, yes, and a technical skill set, definitely. But the way we created the solution was to start day one, year one, class one, and started with things like business ethics, communication, because when you do engineering, you select at year 3. The first 2 years are seen to be standard. So having that level of engagement with the university we partnered with changed for us where we would source skill set from, significantly reduced our training expenditure, because at that time, to train one engineer on a system, which we didn't have a system you could learn on and make a mistake, so you had to go overseas so that you could actually work on a system but not interfere with the customer experience. And we're talking about 1 million shillings per engineer. It's not sustainable. So that, I think, are some of the solutions. So it's good to hear, I think Dr. Chandaria mentioned it, I think the Institute mentioned it. I think we need to put our names forward as industry and say we are willing to look at this area and challenge the university and the chairs of the respective schools to then say, come and let's partner, and do it in a structured way that allows industry to dictate what it is they're looking for and work from the demand side. So when you address your demand, then you will be up to date. I think it's also a change in mindset for the universities to say, we are creating a product for either industry, for self-employment, but to grow the general country. And I think that mindset would help.
Thank you very much. Anyone from the university would like to react to that? I don't want VC, I know we put you up from the heat, not the Chancellor, not Professor Osa, but not even Professor Bitang, but are you willing to actually have your curricula actually changed or have it demand-driven, as they would say? That, I think, will be the question we pose. But at this point, I'm going to have Mr. Benman just give us an IBM perspective. I know there's a lot of work you've done about the ease of doing business in the country, especially with the government, and just issue about, you tell investors, don't worry about skill set. By the way, when you come into Africa, especially Kenya, talent is there. Talent is key. But, what we are now addressing is something different.
Absolutely, yeah. So I think perspective I want to provide here is we've talked a lot about technical skills and how the speed of change, the need to teach modern skills around things like AI, blockchain, Internet of Things. That's clearly where a strong collaboration between industry and academia is required. We're here today with our Digital Nation Africa program, which is designed to teach millennials in the way they want to learn about these new technologies. We've talked a lot about the soft skills, which are really important. Being presentable, being able to communicate, being able to articulate. But I wanted to touch on what I would call innovation skills, problem-solving skills. That's also another important category. We need to teach, and that's something you cannot learn in purely in a classroom-style environment. You have to learn those skills while you're solving problems. So I really applaud Professor Bithi's announcement or invitation for industry to bring problems to the students so that they can actually work together in teams and they can be designing solutions rather than simply learning the theory behind computing. That's really, really critical. I think also, the style of teaching, Professor Ndemo highlighted that point. Before we can teach others, we need to learn ourselves the new style of how students want to consume this type of learning. I think that's a critical aspect that we need to think about, is adapting our style to the way that students will want to learn. Role-playing, interviews, role-playing, working in a team. Changing that format, I think, can be really, really transformational.
There's a mic there somewhere to academia, and just react to that. I know there's a concern that was raised. We could actually talk about it. Yes.
Okay, thank you very much. The issue of collaboration between industry and academia in terms of the curriculum itself is highly welcome. I mean, at the end of the day, as been mentioned, we are producing students who will serve industry in as much as they'll also create employment for themselves. One of the key things, therefore, is being able, as was mentioned by the Vice Chancellor, to bring industrial problems or industry problems into the classroom. And therefore, a gathering like this, which is unique in Kenya, I think, in the recent past,
where industry is willing to participate with academia, and academia is sitting here with open arms saying, please come in, tell us your issues, tell us your problems, let us put them to our students, and then you get that interaction between what happens in the classroom as well as what you actually want to see happen in industry. So I think that's a really welcome challenge. The one thing I want to add that the University of Nairobi is also looking at is setting up an innovation park, a science park. And the key thing with this is to allow small businesses and large businesses to actually look at real problems that affect them with their staff members, but also bring in students and staff from all over the country to participate in that as well. So I see that as another direct link between academia and industry. Thank you.
Dr. Shadari, you want to say something?
I think that we had enough discussion on this, on the principles. Number one, there is one job for every 3 people right now. It might even become 4 people to one job. And this is the major problem now. Are we training, even for that one job, the right people? And the issues are that you might be training, but training together with the practical experience is another thing. My suggestion for a long time to the universities and to the Minister of Education, let us have at least one semester of a student in 3rd year and the 4th year to be on the workplace, so they would understand what is going to require of them, which is not happening. It could be last year, it could be 2nd and 3rd, but let's take them to the place where they are going to work and understand what can be done. They'll come back with the principles and ideas and thoughts. That's number one. Number two, on these are 3 basic issues that the Vice Chancellor has asked. How many of us are prepared to give our problems to the university to be solved? Let's not talk about only technological problem. There's a health, all kinds of sections are in this country. So let's look at how many of us are prepared to say, yes, I'm prepared to allow the university to look at this so that I can find a solution. And number 2, how much are we prepared to say that these are our people, that we have a responsibility to make very sure that laboratories, the classrooms are up to date. Nairobi University was not set yesterday. It was many years back. And all the things have changed. And are we prepared to get things involved in it? That means there are some social responsibilities that we got to understand and ask them to realize and say, how much are you going to play the part? I think these are the 2 or 3 questions that we got to ask. We don't have jobs. There are 3 people looking for one job. And if that one job is not a trained person, the fellow is going to waste another time in training them. So I think that the basis of more connections between universities and industry, whether it's manufacturing industry, whether it's agriculture part, whatever the industries are, unless and until we can make that connection in a sense that they are our part and we are their part, then and then we can make a solution, a change in the situation.
Thank you.
All other issues doesn't make very much difference. First thing, are we prepared? Are we committed towards this type of help to the university and university helping the industry?
Thank you, Madhu. Yes, and I'll pass on the mic to Kevin, but to our viewers who are watching us, please, of course, you have your questions, feel free to interact with us online. I would want, of course, to get a view of the leaders in here, but also if you want to ask a question or pose something, please interact with us with the hashtag #TopInBusiness or BD_Africa or at NTV Kenya, and be able to just throw a bit of them to our audience. Kevin, do you have an interaction?
Thanks. I'd like to provide a value proposition to industry from a government perspective. And this is, of course, that we imagine that we can co-create quality and relevance of skills, research, and entrepreneurship. We have various frameworks in place, policies and legislations which promote sabbatical programs where teachers and trainers can work in industry. We can install a work-integrated learning program, as Dr. Chandaria said, which enables a young person to train, but on a standardized level within industry and the productive sector. There's the potential within legislation to promote adjunct lectureship, which enables industry players to come and lecture and to come and train in tertiary institutions. There's the ability for industry to play a role in research, and specifically supported by the government's funding towards research. There's aspects and a new structure called competency-based education and training, which starts at primary education, goes into higher education, and presupposes direct involvement of industry, setting the occupational standards through a sector skills advisory committee. A standard is basically how industry perceives how work should be done. It's a measure. It's a measure towards planning, for example, a measure towards some sort of action. And then curriculum is written towards developing that standard and achieving that standard. And then assessment systems are built in close collaboration with industry. So it's within this structure, there's a direct involvement of industry. And the outcome is that young people are better prepared for internships, but they're also better prepared for work environments. But it requires industry to join sector skills advisory committees. And finally, of course, there's the aspect of governance, quality assurance within institutions, creating centers of excellence. Within the tertiary perspective, I'm inviting industry to sit on the boards of institutions to inform the actual governance, the quality assurance, and promote centers of excellence in some of our institutions. This can be easily done within the TVET sector, but is also open at the university sector. So there's an open structure, mechanism, framework for industry to be involved, but not in terms of CSR, a value proposition towards enhancing productivity, innovation, efficiency, and therefore industry has to invest. The productive sector has to invest in all these frameworks that have been created.
The private sector members here who would want to be part of boards, be part of research, be part of guest lecturing, to please raise up their hands so we can. So are they going to make up part of your boards in the quality assurance?
Yes, of course.
And they're willing to discuss that?
Yes, of course.
All right, great. Thank you. Gilbert wants to react, but I have a mic, I think, next. Gentlemen, you wanted to have a quick intervention, sir?
Thank you so much.
Yes.
First, let me introduce myself so that for the benefit of members. I'm the PS for post-training and skills development. So first, let me congratulate the University of Nairobi for hosting this function. It's the first one of its kind. I want to say the Department of Skills, Post-Training and Skills Development was been formed specifically by the government to address the issues we are discussing here. And I'm glad because I've had the contributions from the sector. I'm glad the academia FIA also, they are ready to address the issues. We know the issues of skills gap, which exists in the job market. I personally have handled a number of graduates from various institutions. And you realize there's a skills gap between what they learn in the schools and what is happening in the job market. And we want to say, ourselves as a new department, we are here to work with you to ensure that we support the programs which are here to ensure that we generate graduates who actually are able to contribute in the job market. So I want to say that we are here and we shall be engaging from time to time, not only university graduates, but even from various institutions, from the TVETs, all other institutions, so that we have people who are graduating who can be actually readily contribute to the economy. Thank you.
So just before I take off the mic from you, just delve a bit deeper in the issue about the establishment of the career office. I know that was launched by Madam CS Amina Mohammed right at this very institution. If you could just shed a bit more light for the benefit of our viewers into what the government hopes to achieve by creating this career offices in universities.
Okay, thank you. Remember there's a handbook for the career, Office of the Career, and which was launched by our cabinet secretary recently. And this is geared to ensure that the curriculum we're offering in our institutions actually are geared actually to contribute to the labor market, because we may be contributing graduates. They should be guided on what courses to take in institutions so that whatever they are studying will actually be meaningful in the job market. And that is basically, it should be informed by the industry. So we expect the industry also to be able to give in contribution to the Office of the Career so that they are able to advise students on what courses to take, which will be useful in the job market. Thank you.
Right. Madam Madenke, you have an input to make.
Thank you, Laban. So I think it's great that I spoke right after you, because I think we have a systemic problem. This is not an issue that starts at tertiary level. It starts at primary, it starts and goes on to secondary, then they're at university. There is no way in 4 years you can teach someone to be quickly innovative, critical thinking, application development. They have to start early. And somewhere, the education system changed, because majority of us went to Kenyan schools here. But change is inevitable, and especially for us who are in the technology industry, it's how quickly you can adopt to change. So I think you need to just look at your systems internally, because your systems internally could be the reason actually why we private sector, will opt for private universities candidates versus public university. We have so many opportunities we'd like to collaborate. So make it easy for us to step in and quickly. I like the idea of committees, but committees sometimes are just committees that meet and meet and meet and talk. We need more action. For us, technology is quick, and to be able to actually implement really fast. So if you're going to let us in and allow us to help you navigate this so that we can actually be at the forefront in the country and actually just help you make this curriculum better.
Thank you very much. Patrick, over to you. So what Madam Madenke says is that, you know, in the Kenyan education system, and you just flew in from the States, is that, you know, there's a lot of work to be done. So you find like employers have to retrain, but there's a concerted effort from government, from private sector to ensure that, you know, everyone just comes on the table. You have an initiative where you launched about it, post trainings after university. Just talk to us about that and how this can be achieved.
All in 35 seconds. Can I just say that the problems we're talking about here are not unique to Kenya. It is a global issue in terms of having students that are prepared for the workplace. So as an organization, ACT, we're a research-based organization in the US, we're not for profit, and our focus is on college and career readiness for youth. So one of the programs we've developed specifically, our Work Keys program, is based around those cross-cutting skills that are required for all jobs, so the communication skills, problem solving, critical thinking, as well as the sort of literacy and numeracy that's required as well. Something else that we're also getting more involved in now is social emotional learning. So looking at how we can assess people's tenacity, grit. There's also a tendency now with the millennials, I'm a long way off that, but my children will be soon, where they are, there's an expectation that they don't have to do things because it's all done for them. So again, it's being able to assess what it is, the skills that people have, and where they don't have those skills, help them to gain those skills. It's not something that can be simply done very easily, but it can be done over a period of time, or in a number of ways, depending on whether that's done in the workplace for those people that are already in employment, whether it is tertiary education in schools, in vocational colleges. But it needs to be something that transcends a sort of holistic approach in terms of everything, basically. It's not just one thing that's one problem that can be solved. Just to say as well that I know earlier on last month the World Bank was saying that critical now is that human capital development. So people are the greatest resource that a nation has, so it's important that we can invest as much as possible in them so that the nation and those people can succeed as well. Thank you.
I'm going to pass the mic to Madam Wainan. I'm going to come to you just shortly, but there's one person in the mic.
Morning, everyone. I'm speaking on behalf of academia, and I run Intel College. We collaborate with the British University. And I'd like to say first that I think Nairobi University is taking the lead in addressing employability. The Kenya National Bureau of Statistics is showing us that we have 50 million population in Kenya, 19.3 million labor force at the moment, 17.9 in gainful employment. That means 1.4 million people who could be employed are unemployed in the country. And the universities are looking, Nairobi University has recognized that graduate employability is important. Now, us as a partner of British University collaborating to offer degree programs in Kenya, we're tapping into the practices that are being used overseas, and where, as my colleague over there says, employability is a worldwide problem, and getting graduates with those skills is very important. What we're doing is we have developed something called Intel College Futures, and the Futures programs incorporates all these things that we're talking about today. So it is a program that incorporates soft skills training, it incorporates internships, it incorporates alumni tracer studies, it looks at what are the outcomes of higher education study, and I think those are the solutions. It's not just a one-off career fair. It's not saying that we're going to create, change our curriculum so that we have this. It's creating a program that incorporates all these things. That's what I have to contribute.
That's great. At least there's a solution actually ongoing. And I don't know if you're calling for more partners also, and just maybe seeing how that can also be infused into various other institutions. It's something maybe we can discuss a bit more. Madam Wanena, you had an intervention to make really quickly.
Thank you. As I'm thinking through, my question runs again back to university. Are the professors ready, open, willing to rethink how they teach, how they think about solutions to the problems society is looking for? And that draws me to the vision of our University of Nairobi. A world-class university committed to scholarly excellency. If that be our vision, we might focus too much on scholarly excellency, then we don't contribute to the global economy. So again, my other intervention, goodbye. We are discussing stakeholders who are not here, students. Can we give them an opportunity to tell us how they can become employable? Can we carry out a survey, or at least the graduating class, and I think that's possible to do, and get their views of how they think they want to transition into employment. I think those are some of the two things on that.
Thank you. Gilbert?
Thank you. Chancellor, this might seem like it's bashing, but it's because you took a leadership position in this country to jointly take this thing to a whole new level, and we really appreciate that. And we jointly, own this together with you. I think as the private industry, we're willing to put in our skin in the game wherever you ask us to. I just have one question. When I was graduating, the president said something like, you now have the power to read and write. Right?
Let's say that. You now have the power to read and to do all that pertains to this degree.
I think maybe, if that is that still the case? I think maybe that could be a small little problem. A small one, just a small modification might be needed, because we expect to hire people that think, that solve problems, not just read problems and read back to us what the problem was. So we might need to just kind of, because if that's what we aspire for 4 years, to be told now you can go and read, I think that could be a fundamental, already a mental block. I'm just thinking about it, right? I did psychology for 2 years in University of Nairobi, I think, under my undergrad, medicine. And psychology is everything about how you want to achieve on the planet, right? So I think that could be one part. The other thing about, we talked about digital trends as a problem, but it actually can also be a solution as well. The era of mass employment, I think, is gone. I think it's gone. The eras where you could, just look at Business Daily's headlines today. I think the era of mass employment is gone. I think we're getting into an era of employment in a very different fashion now. And I think, I see it like a production line. Universities, you're producing, and there's somehow supposed to be a market out there that you continue until from cradle to grave. And you're serving a particular function there. Everybody that you churn out needs to have a place. Might not be just employment like we know it today, but they need to have a place. And digitization can actually provide part of that solution, right? If you look at capability to be able to get a loan now has been really changed with mobility or mobile loans. So someone can actually start a business much easier than would have been before. So digital trends can also be the greatest equalizer as well, but only when it's really infused early into the system, not as something they do at the end, but something that starts from year one as well. And they can also start with even the University of Nairobi website. If you look at it, compare it with maybe a Stanford or a Harvard website, there is no reason why, years down the line, that could not have been a project for some of the teams in the University of Nairobi to do in computer science and develop one hell of a website with online publications like Harvard Business does. Why can't University of Nairobi do that? If I want a publication that's done by one of your lecturers, why can't I just go and get it there? Why do I have to subscribe to Harvard Business School? So I think there are projects that you can already do as a university before we even come in as academia, but only when you infuse these digital trends as part and parcel, not as an afterthought at the end as we kind of push you out into the market. Thank you.
Thank you, Gilbert. If I could just have the mic passed to Madam Ratansi, you're going to react to that, it is the Chancellor's career fair. Not really putting on the spot, but it is your day. We have to make sure we put you on that. But, all right, there you go. There's a mic coming to you, Madam. All right, let's hear it.
We got you all here to get your views. Okay, our aim is to have very strong and long-lasting collaboration with the government, industry, and ourselves. Okay, so that our students and graduates can be nurtured and given guidance to a better and more fulfilling future. So the only way we can achieve this is by talking to you. And constant dialogue is what we need with you all if our students are to go far in life. We need an industry-backed curriculum. We're quite aware of that. We need to urge industry, talk to us. Come, let us have dialogues. Train our students, please, and graduates. Recruit them, help us with that. We'd like a commitment from you to also train our students in employability. That would be so nice. But the main thing is we need to talk to each other. If we don't talk, nothing will go right. Let's talk to each other. Let's produce a wholly rounded, a holistic student, which is exactly what the lady there said. Right, industry? Talk to us. Our doors are always open for you. Please, come, talk to us. Let us do this together. What a positive effect it will have on our youth and the future of this country.
Indeed.
So let's talk.
Take that as a call to action. I'm going to come to Arthur and then pass on the mic to you. Thank you, Madam. Yes, and Kevin later. Yeah.
Thank you, Laban. I think for me, my name is Arthur. I'm the HR manager for King's Retires. And what I can say is the nature of business we are in, the frustrations we've had with our graduates is they don't want to get their hands dirty. They don't want to put an overall, go down your car, check the wheel alignments, change your oil and all that. So I think it's been frustrating, but for the graduates from vocational technical centers, they fit in so well. Unlike the uni, so I think it's more of the mindset that we need to change as we get our graduates to the labor market. So that's the appeal I have to the university. Let's change the mindset of our graduates. Thank you.
All right, getting our hands dirty. Kevin, you're very pleased to discuss that. I'm going to come to you. Do you want to, oh yeah, let's quickly, as we have the mic passed to Sandeep, maybe you can give an input.
Well, just a quick one. In addition to all the other areas of dialogue and joint responsibility and all the different ways in which private sector can be involved, we're also looking for people to sit on the Commission for University Education. So we'd like your CVs. If you're in private sector and you think that you'd like to serve the country, serve education, serve research, serve skills, send me your CVs.
Can that be done now and on LinkedIn? So gentlemen, ladies, do you mean on the board of director positions or?
Well, the private sector are able to sit on boards of universities, boards of technical vocational training centers, but they're also able to sit on systemic structures like the Commission for University Education, the Technical Vocational Education Training Authority, in order to provide governance, professional guidance, quality assurance perspectives, all towards quality and relevance. And that's the fastest way to transform the system and ensure that the competence that we have in research and training at universities is aligned to industry requirements.
Thanks, Kevin. And I'm honored you made that announcement right here on Top in Business because, again, the idea is about partnership. So we're going to hold him to account. I will take him up on that, for sure. Just to really quickly, because you have the mic, mindset. Just talk about mindset. So there's that perception that Arthur mentioned, that you have graduates who would feel that perhaps because they went in through university, they cannot get their hands dirty. Maybe getting to that overall, maybe change the tires as they will do at Kingsway. And then there's a conversation you're doing about, again, rebranding the TVET institutions. So how do you drop the balance also?
I think if, as a child, if you're gifted with imagination, curiosity, your hands, you're therefore disdained for TVET, Technical Vocational Education Training. On equal footing, if you're disdained for academia, then you're dedicated to universities. You can be both within the Kenya Qualifications National Framework, where you can actually go vertically and horizontally in the national system, pick up a couple of skills, go to university for academics, and vice versa. I think that the point here is that both TVET and universities are on equal footing. What we need to do is, as much as we focus on tertiary education, encourage curiosity in the youth, especially at primary education level. There's an abundance of resourcefulness, energy, diversity, and creativity in our youth. But there are no pathways. We need to create pathways from curiosity to science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, to inculcate research. And then we'll have the dynamism of innovation and STEM in its full capacity. So we need to play an active role, even as private sector, in encouraging primary students to take up STEM, to inculcate and recognize their curiosity, to encourage it. But most importantly, we need to show them the clear link between their curiosity and commercialization, both social and economic opportunities. And that can only be done by private sector. If we do that, then we will have created pathways towards a more flexible future and a greater livelihood for young people.
Thank you, Kevin. So just to mention that we're getting to the tail end of this, and thank you all so much. You realize live television, of course, we're moving quite fast, so I want us now to kind of give a way forward onto this. I'm going to have Professor Gengo just give us, like the Pope, you're going to be the last to speak in terms of like the actionable points that we're going to carry forward from this conversation side, if you allow. That's going to be later on. But now, let's have Sandeep, and then I'm going to have anyone else who just want to give the quick round of interventions if you haven't spoken, and then we can, of course, Mr. Kiara, I'll come to you.
Yeah, we at BDO, we are working with a lot of startups, and there's a positive intervention here. Just to let you know that as far as Kenya is concerned, 50% of all the venture capital angel investments that took place last year in the startup ecosystem came to Kenya. And almost 80% of round one or Series A investments in startup came to Kenya. Now, what it tells us is that there is obviously innovation, there's a possibility of innovation, and I think we should have a hackathon to actually disrupt education. We should disrupt ourselves. ask our students to disrupt ourselves here. I think that's really required because I think they really are getting it as far as startups is concerned. The second issue, that was the positive side. The second issue is when it comes to linkages, and I really liked Dr. Kevitt's intervention regarding STEM. We at BDO, we are looking for mathematical modelers. It's very difficult to find modelers. We even sponsored the Mathematics Olympiad, and it's really sad to say that nobody from the government came across to support the national team at the Mathematics Olympiad. The Pan-African Mathematics Olympiad took place a few months ago. The sponsorship from the government was exactly zero. Zero. So if we have to now really get mathematicians, and that's really transformational because a lot of these people are going to be wealth creators of tomorrow, we have to start from primary education, secondary education, and then link them up to those 4 years, those 4 magical years where we are looking at linking them to us. But if you don't get people who look at mathematics as a career opportunity, as a transformational opportunity, we'll never get them to join the right curriculum out here and then transform to become very good students and very good employable people. Thank you.
Thank you, Sandeep. Over to you, Madam Oko.
Fantastic. So thank you so much for the university for having us here in this fantastic conversation. I'm unfortunately not an alumni of your university, but both my parents were. And I work with a lot of University of Nairobi graduates at McKinsey. So maybe let me offer one question to you and then 2 additional reflections. So the first thing is, I think your alumni are an incredible resource to you. We talked a lot about technical skills. We talked a lot about soft skills. We began to talk about what McKinsey calls meta skills in this future of work. Change is the new normal. Your students will have 4 or 5 careers before they're 30 years old. So there's a real question of how you train people to change. And a lot of that is in the grit, it's in the humility, it's in the entrepreneurship, it's in understanding that your job today is not going to be your job tomorrow. You know, this skating to where the puck is. I work a lot in agriculture. When I look at the skill sets we will need to transform agriculture in this country, which is 33% of our GDP, those jobs do not exist. So we can't create a curriculum to design for them. So there's a really big question about using your alumni. Who are your alumni who have succeeded? What data can you gather on them? Because I think they'll be an incredible resource to you. I'm an alumni of HBS, and the HBS alumni are the biggest givers to university. They're offering people internships. They have such an affinity for your university, which is not to say those of us who are not alumni will not be here to support. But I think your alumni can be real beacons for you. Because the real question for me in this debate is, how do you learn to change? That's the inevitability. Probably the second reflection I'll offer is as far as disruptions in education. So you talked about the hackathon as an idea. When I think about universities like ALU, they're really pushing the envelope of what it means to be an instructor and a facilitator, right? It's a different call to action if you're not a research institution. And I think that the points that Mrs. Wanana brought up are really critical. What ALU does, because they're not a research institution, they hire facilitators to teach class because these millennials want to be in peer groups. They want to be learning through these massive online courses. Their funds can be allocated differently. So I'm not asking you to not be a research institution, but I think it's a real big question is being a research institution, how do you view the role of professors and facilitators in class? I had an opportunity to be an adjunct faculty in Strathmore teaching economics, and when I think about my own university education, being taught by practitioners are some of the most memorable experiences I had, and often led to job opportunities. And maybe the last reflection I will offer is in terms of continuing this conversation, I think it's critical for you to get students in this conversation. I think they're the ones who are living in your institution today, and having a conversation without them will miss really important perspectives.
Aman Loco, thank you. I did not notice you actually, from McKinsey. Yale and Harvard, by the way, congratulations. I think quite learned out there. Kihara, I'm gonna come to you. There's a gentleman who's been sitting right at the back. We can see you, sir. Please just introduce yourself, Professor, and then just give your input quickly.
I'm Professor William Ogara, University of Nairobi Academia. I'm in charge of international programs and links. The conversation I have listened to and my colleagues have also listened to, I start by stating that we, University of Nairobi, send quite a number of students out to other universities in the world, and they are amongst the top. They are doing very well. You can absorb that. The second thing is that when you talk about curriculum, you know, now we have several people from different industry settings and backgrounds. Curriculum is supposed to deliver a certain level of knowledge. Yeah, in fact, the theoretical basis, knowledge level and basis that will lead to the person that you are looking for. You find that in developed societies today, there's more emphasis and investment in the STEM subjects, because as we roll out now, future employment is actually technology-based and on the STEM subjects. As we discuss the competencies as we grow and move out, we should think in terms of, first and foremost, strengthening the STEM system. When it comes to development of the curriculum, therefore, curriculum cannot be developed, changed every day. It has to be stable for a given period of time. So we have a lifespan for curriculum at a given time. Nevertheless, as we do implement curricula, we consider the stakeholder contributions, participation. I want to consider this forum as a big stakeholder contribution to the process of curriculum development. When it comes to industry, there are several pathways of academia-industry partnership. Take, for example, the Cambridge Academy Science and Technology, where they are creating cadets of industry. Therefore, the pathway is not one, the pathways are several. I would like to conclude by referring to the second point the Vice Chancellor talked about today, in that the university is capable of developing tailor-made courses, customized and specialized courses for industry. As we address core curricular content and how it must be delivered, we should consider customized, specialized courses for industry and for various sectors. The partnership must be dynamic, we must be open, and I therefore refer to the comments which were made by Professor Bitangi Ndemo at the beginning, colleague here, I don't know the name, and also the other colleague about the current status. We travel, we talk to people, we go to conferences, and the issues raised here today are not unique to here, and our feedback and contribution to this is what must be cardinal, and it must be positive in character, and it must bear the willingness to contribute in a positive manner, and actually by identifying clusters of areas which will require attention. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Ogara. With me, I'm holding the Business Daily, and all of you got a copy of this. And I know, Gilbert, you alluded to it, that the NSC companies have laid off 4,250 staff in just under 1 year. Why, passing on to Kiara, it's not, not to put you on the spot, but you're a listed company. So there's also the idea of you being competitive enough to actually enable you to absorb talent. So if you could add that into your input, I'd really appreciate it.
Yes, thank you. So I think this is a great conversation to have. And I think the invitation to industry to participate in curriculum development so it can actually be relevant to the workplace is important. I think we do need to think about how we're going to put our money where our mouths are. And in terms of inviting people to sit on boards, yes, I think that would be one way to do it. I think as industry, it's not enough to just simply lament that the kind of graduates we are getting are not of the quality that we need in the workforce. We have to think about ways we can actively design or help design programs that actually give us the content or the kind of people that we want. I think perhaps latching onto one of the ideas that was discussed actually by Professor Mbithi, you invited people to come and set up endowment funds in specific areas of interest. I think that is one great way to really say, can we sponsor a chair of banking, for example? Can we then share the ideas that we have about different directions we want banking to take, and how can we help, or how can we work with the university, for example, to then further research in these areas? These are approaches that I think would be of great interest to industry, to say we'll sponsor all the research, and we know that it's going to develop a lot of time, and because obviously we are looking at making money from this, if we get first bite on that research, right, then I can see a win-win partnership between the university and industry. But I think one of the other things that Dr. Chandere mentioned, we are looking at this from the context of essentially your formal sector. And if we're getting, 4 people chasing one job coming out of the university, then we've got a real problem, because if we are focusing on taking people only into the formal sector to be employed, I think we've got a challenge there. We need to give people entrepreneurship skills. We have been bashed repeatedly as banks for not supporting the SME space, right, and being asked to actively do so. Well, it's difficult to do that if you can see that somebody can't even actually understand a balance sheet, right? They don't understand cash flow. How are we going to be able to support entrepreneurs? If the university is giving them the technical skills, but perhaps they're not getting ready for the, to set up their businesses, then we've got a problem, because we are now actually forced to train our customers on how to really understand how a business works, how to make themselves bank ready. So this is something that would be good to look at, and make sure that we are looking at all ends of the spectrum in terms of how the industry can really partner with the universities. I think I must say that I'm here at this roundtable today because of Mr. Rohit Gupta here, who is my colleague, and he actually sits in your committee that you set up for the purpose. So when I heard about this, I was very excited, because these are things that we've been talking about, possible partnerships. So this is really good and should be encouraged.
Thank you, Kehara. I notice you've ducked away from the issue of competitiveness. So I'm going to ask Professor Vitango to help you on that. If you could just pass on the mic right behind you, and then also to the gentleman next to you. As we're coming, do you want to talk to us about that before I come to Yes, it's on actually. Yeah.
As these jobs get people being laid off, there are hundreds of jobs being created online. There are several new jobs. We never used to have things like data scientists, data analytics. Every company needs these people. We don't have them because we have not retrained those who are being retrenched to take up the emerging jobs. So this is one thing we must begin to learn, that some jobs will die, but there will be so many new jobs. A few years ago, we used to have something like stenographer or something. They are not there. Even clerical jobs in banks will not be there. So we need to tell people, every company, including him, they need a data analyst or several data analysts, or the people he's laying off could actually help him understand what's happening in the social media. How can we re-engineer this to benefit us? So we must begin to understand that.
Thank you, sir. Then pass on the mic to your left. I'm going to come to you, sir. But Madam Sandra Glory, will there be a chance that you can even talk to your members, to actually manufacturers? I know there's an issue about competitiveness, especially in the manufacturing side, to even employ more and participate in baking of the students in school.
Thank you. I'm representing Kenya Association of Manufacturers, and for the past 2 years we've been having a program where we call it TVET program, and we've been placing graduates from technical institutions in 3 months for internship. And the feedback that we've gotten from our members, who are really willing to take the students and take them through the work readiness program, is that their attitude, just the soft skills that we've been talking about, but we went on to teach them. We got the students from the technical institutions, and we took them through a program where we taught them how to communicate, how to even write their CVs, how to even go for an interview, and the results were remarkable. Most of them were being able, we have now 300 graduates who are able to get jobs in the industries. But one thing, the feedback that we got also from the industries is that the institutions are not ready to get the feedback. Please monitor your students once they're given the chances to go for the internships. Do you monitor their progress? Because some of them may be going for internship and later on they don't get anything. So the feedback we get from the industries is that please monitor the progress of your students. There are some industries which will tell you we want students from A, B, C, D institutions. Reason is they get the feedback and they act on it. I think the take home is monitor the progress of the graduates.
All right, thank you. On monitoring, I'm going to pass the mic right behind you. You can help me on that. Sir, you had a quick intervention to make, yes.
So good morning, ladies and gentlemen. This topic I've taken on how to attract the industry and have a good connect between the universities and the industry. What I feel is every university should have, apart from their practical classes, they should have some outsourcing, job outsourcing departments wherein they can connect to the industry, take some small jobs, give it to their own students, maybe under the supervision of some of the lecturers, or you can hire some of the people wherein they can produce what exactly the industry wants, and they can showcase that, you know, this is what our student can do, so that you can well connect it to the industry. Thank you.
Thank you. I wanted to have Madam Catherine Bukachi from Schneider Electric. So I would want to get your input, especially because I mean, you're a global firm and looking towards getting skill set that actually suits your company.
So thank you so much. So what I would like to contribute is the ability of the young job market employees coming into the market and having staying power. And when I'm talking about staying power here, I'm actually aware of the fact that we are looking at a different generation. And the generation that we are employing today, which is the Gen Y, they really don't have resilience. And a lot of them you will find in the HR practitioners who are here will allude to the fact that when you ask them, where do you see yourself in an organization in 3 years? They either want to be consultants, they want to run their own companies. And so this is the thing. And just also chipping into the area of entrepreneurial skills. Yes, you want to run your own organization, but do you even understand how to really protect the bottom line of an organization and you're given a chance to stay within the company? So you will find a lot of them, they look at, I'm employed today, and in 2 years I want to be a manager, and I want to become the CEO of this organization. So just that connection of understanding. And so what I'm actually alluding to is the fact that when we are training our the students, is also to train them on leadership attributes, soft skills, which is very critical. Because you will find in most companies today, what you achieve is not as important on how you achieve it. So then there's another issue of integrity at the workplace. So you will find there's a lot of shortcuts. And today we are very much aware on the war on corruption. So we need to really embed these right principles from the time when they are in the university to understand that resilience is key. And also having the right value system is very critical.
Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm just forced to actually ask you to please clap for yourselves for making it towards this point in time. I want to really appreciate you. Thank you. You'd agree with me, this is the first of its kind in national television that we're having this discussion and this one-on-one interaction between, you know, several players and just trying to address an issue that I don't want it to turn out to be a talk show, but I want Professor Ongengo to just quickly just give us a teaser into, for the last few minutes, we've been discussing a lot of issues and what are our key takeaways? And I want you to actually challenge, if it's government, if it's private sector, and if it's academia yourselves, to actually have some work to do this week.
Thank you, Laban. This tripod, academia, government, industry, must now get anchored in the concrete in the University of Nairobi. The university is ready, is willing, is raring to go. Everything that has been said this morning is important, and what remains is not to be said, it is to be done. So expect very active, very proactive engagement between these three partners in the coming 4 weeks maximum. You will note that the university has operationalized the Office of Career Services, which the CS will be making a formal launch of today, to continue with the formal launch of the countrywide Office of Career Services only about 2 months ago. The university takes this very seriously, and so this is the beginning point. We are ready, we are willing to make appropriate adjustments to our curricula to accommodate all the sentiments that have been raised today, and especially the last one, monitoring progress. We shall monitor, we shall evaluate, we shall report on ourselves as we are seated here. We invited you so that you could share your experiences, and the university takes this absolutely seriously. The action is what remains is to be done, not to be said. I want to thank all of you very profusely on my own behalf and on the behalf of the university. There's going to be a series of events connected with this, bring in many more people. In fact, after this, I would be inviting you to the auditorium where we'll have many more people to continue with this, and many others, and the exhibitions that are going on. All these are linking into this. All these trainings we have talked about will be done, and will be done on a continuous basis, not as an event. It's a process that has begun. It has been going on a little lukewarm. We are now very firm, very strong, very hot about this, going into the future. And allow that we go into the future, all of us together. The country is ours. Now, global citizenship, the globe is ours, and we go into it together. And if you know anybody else out there who shares what we have talked about here, we are happy to bring them on board. We will come to you. We will invite you to come to us all the time on a continuous basis. Thank you very much, everybody, for this session.
Thank you, Prof. Appreciate it.
To greatly appreciate our Chancellor for being ahead of everyone in guiding this university. Our government for their continued understanding and support. And all of you again for your becoming, and in the anticipation for the effort we are going to put, all of us together, to make this university meet its mandate and make our country great. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Professor Mbithi. We really want to appreciate you for taking the lead and taking the initiative to actually organize the first roundtable of its kind. Thanks also to NTV for broadcasting this live. I would want, of course, to have another quick round of asante and remarks to each and every one of you, but I want to say thank you to each and every one of you for making time. So please, another round of applause to you as well for making time to be here. I want to now wrap it up from this session. It doesn't mean that the Chancellor's Career Fair is over. Actually, when we were coming in, we'd noticed the tents that are set out there. There's time now for students to come out with their CVs, come out and interact with their employers, and really see what are some of the ways they can actually improve themselves into making themselves employable. So that is all happening right here at the University of Nairobi grounds. And of course, we've had the CEO's Roundtable, a lot of key issues that have been deliberated on. I'm challenged by Manu Chandare to actually follow through on some of those commitments that have actually been mentioned at this point. My name is Laban Cliff. I've been working together with an amazing team behind the cameras who made this production possible. For now, we end this broadcast, but stay tuned. We'll have NTV Today coming up shortly, and it's a goodbye and a good week ahead.